When I was asked to speak at this thing, it was hard because there are so many stories. Because I was there from the top, which is over a year ago with Screen Nova Scotia, and I really almost relived the experience listening to my colleagues speak in the earlier session. And it's been such an emotional time. But let me just start with this: is that anybody that knows me, I'm not a completely stupid person, but I have no wisdom. I mean, we talk about people that have many lives. You know, if you believe in reincarnation, maybe a few of you are a couple thousand lives in. This is life number 1 over here. So I am the school of hard knocks. I learn my lessons hard, and I learned a really important one with this whole thing. And if you bear with me a little bit, I'll tell you what I learned. Just to frame this correctly, now those of us in the film industry will know what this feels like, but remember when we used to care about just bullshit? Because I kind of remember that before March 25th, before Wayland spoke, I remember those were my worries. It was bullshit. And to give you an example, and this is a true story, I have a Star Wars Lego problem. Don't worry, ladies, someone did scoop me up. I am married. Just let everybody know. But I buy Star Wars Lego for some reason, and I'm building. This is right before the March 25th budget. I'm finishing up the Death Star, the $600 Death Star that I convinced myself I deserved. And there's a missing piece. And those of you that are lost in the Star Wars Lego world, like myself, all Star Wars Lego, or all Lego, I think, comes with a form. You know, are you missing a piece? I mean, Europeans made Lego. They're so smart. And you send this away, and you get your piece. Anyway, my piece had come in, and it was the right piece, but it was the wrong color gray. This is true. Yeah, so I've got my $600 480 million piece Death Star, but I got one piece that's not the right fucking color. And that was my big problem. And it's true. And then the budget hit on first off was March 25th, and a lot of us were like, wow, that was really bad. And so then what happened was April 9th. And Mark already told the story of the lockup this morning. And it's such a great story because it's such a feature film, all of it. And like most of my life, I live it like a feature film. I hear sound effects. Some things are in slow motion. and that was a slow motion moment when the doors, so if you can imagine, they really do put the press away. They put the industry stakeholders away. They lock them in a room for the morning. They get to peruse the budget. Mark's having a terrible time because he knows what's happened. None of us know what's happened. And the doors open, and we can't quite see Mark. We see, I remember seeing Mary Elizabeth Luca, who's in the industry, a friend of the industry, and I remember what she did because myself and Volpe and Rob Roselli are all like, well? And I remember Emmy Luca did this. She did, and that's all she had to do. And I knew we were dead. And the rest of it was in slow motion. Mark kind of busy walking, but for me, slow-mo, busy walking out with his laptop. And I remember everything. I remember Dion said, well, and Mark's words were, it's catastrophic. And it really was. And for those of you not in the film industry, it wasn't like we lost our jobs. That's where people get that wrong. It's not even like we lost our livelihood. The best way I can explain it is that we're all teachers and we woke up and there's no more schools. And we can't go to Ontario because it's a totally different system, and you got to go to the Ontario school system. So we are screwed. And most of us, as maybe you're finding out if you're not in the film industry, we are Nova Scotians with families, with kids, and that's who we are. You know, we're not this entitled bunch. I mean, the level of spin that's coming from this government, or that came from the government, was unbelievable to us. We really were devastated. And this is what I learned. There's 3 things. The first 2 is number 1 is when this happens to you, when a majorly bad thing happens to you. So yeah, Lego was bad, but now something actually bad happened to me. You react in a couple of different ways. And one way you can react is to be a denier and to be, you know, sort of, it's almost being Pollyanna. And I'm not saying that everybody was that way or this way. I'm just saying that's one way to react. Certainly I was reacting that way at times. And so you know, in that denier sort of way, you're like, oh, did you see Diana Whalen during the scrum? She's nice. She'll give us our industry back. So it's that sort of thinking. You're sort of latching on to the positive. And then there's the other way, which is the other extreme opposite, which is that we are so fucked forever. It's a dystopian wasteland. Everything's on fire. And that's where I go. That's where I went. And I remember it happening in the boardroom because at some point someone reminded us to eat, and we were days in this boardroom. I don't know. I was like, it was really such a strange experience to go into the boardroom every day. But I remember eating the sandwich, and someone said, hey, Jay, how's the sandwich? And I said, tastes like garbage. Let's go flip over some cars. So I knew something in me had snapped. And where this actually went is it went into my family. I've got a little girl, and we're trying to have a normal life because as Scott's story was so indicative of my own life, kids running around, well, my little girl is running around me, and I'm just trying to give her a normal life. And because I'm a filmmaker, we have movie times, and we were watching a movie that wasn't Frozen. If you have little girls, yeah, I'm going to sing all the Frozen songs after my story. Anyway, we were watching Tarzan. I'd never seen it before. It's like 10 years old. It's Disney. It's animated. And because it's Disney, it's good story. And because it's good story, it has real stakes. That's what good story has. And the parents died. The parents in 5 minutes are destroyed by a panther. And I'm like watching. I'm like, of course they're dead. And my little girl, Imogen, is like, what happened? And I said, they died. They're dead. And she said, are they coming back? And I said, no. Just like the tax credit, they're gone. And this is true. And my wife came out of the shower. And my baby's crying. She's on the bed. She's pointing at the TV. She said, Jay says, because my baby does call me Jay. That's a different story. Jay says, the parents are dead and they're not coming back. Will you come back? And my wife's like, I just took a shower. I took a shower, like Father of the Year. And what this is what happened is every week Imogen, that's my daughter, goes to Tales for Tots, which is at the library. It's every week. And Kevin brings out a book and reads it to all the infants. And so there's like a sea of infants. And so Imogen is there that Thursday, and my mother-in-law is with Imogen, and she's in the Sea of Tots, and Kevin gets up, but it isn't Kevin, it's Rebecca, and Rebecca has the book. Rebecca's going to read, and Rebecca explains, sorry guys, Kevin's not going to read this week. Kevin's sick, at home sick, and Imogen stands up and says, Kevin is dead. He's not sick. And Rebecca says, no, he's just got a cold. And Imogen said, that's not true. He's not coming back. And that actually happened. So the tax credits were cut. And then through a chain of events, there was now a toddler revolution in Halifax that we had started. Yeah, it was, and there was a lot of crying and stuff. I thought it was hilarious, but my mother-in-law didn't think it was that funny. So that's where I was. That's where my headspace was. I was very angry, and it really serves us well in Screen Nova Scotia that we have, or that we maybe switch between positions, because you need that mix. You need a bunch of people sort of feeling this way one day and feeling the other way the next day. And how I got out of that thinking was this part. During this whole thing, I had one gig. So, I do a lot of things in this industry. It's Halifax, so I wear a lot of hats. One thing I do is direct television. And I got a gig on a new show for CBC called Keeping Canada Alive. And they shot for one day right across the country. It's a fascinating show. They put 60 documentary crews all across Canada in 60 different hospitals. And I was at the IWK, and we just only shot for the one day. The IWK, the children's ward, that was my story. And I'm in that zone. I'm in that zone where I am, it's a dystopian wasteland for me. And I'm in this children's hospital, and I'm following around this 1-year-old who's very, very sick, and his family for the whole day. And all through the day, I'm meeting sick children, and I'm interviewing sick children's parents, and I'm saying, what's happened here, and they'll tell me, and I'll go, yeah, that sucks. That's just like my problems too. That's just like the tax credits. I honestly had not popped out of it until that night when they finally, it was a bizarre day, but it was that experience. I met a little girl who had the flu, and she was paralyzed from the neck down. And that was sort of happening to me, and I started to go, wait a second here. I went from Lego to no tax credits to actually real stakes, like a Disney movie, maybe, but not such a good one. And I'll never forget, the end of the day is when I finally found out about the kid we were following, because we followed this kid all day. He could walk, he could talk, he was 1 year old. Developmentally, he was fine, but his digestive system didn't work. And finally, at the end of the day, about 8 o'clock at night, it took 2 parents and a registered nurse 45 minutes for them to hook him up, because when you take off his onesie, this little boy is a cyborg. He has tubes surgically implanted within his body. There's a tube in his heart. And it took them 45 minutes to hook them up to the 7 machines. And that family had lived in that hospital for a year. And the prognosis on little Jackson was that he's going to either die or be on these machines. And all 7 machines now go to his house in Windsor. Remember that winter? He's got to go through winters like that with the 7 machines. His prognosis is either he will die or it's another 3 to 8 years on these machines. Anyway, that's when I broke down. That's when Scott's moment, Scott was in his kitchen in a fetal position. I was directing when that happened to me. When I finally realized that, Pollyanna and to be a denier wasn't right, and to be, this dystopian wasteland wasn't right either, where I was just, let's burn cars. I had to be like this family. I had to finally find courage, because this family, I just watched them, how they hooked this kid up. And it moved me so much, I just thought, this is a real problem. And I'm not saying I don't have a real problem, I do. But my little girl's healthy. But I took the lesson of those parents and just went, I need to be like these people and get through this. So my story ends on a downer. So anyway, that's what I learned. Thank you so much.